when you take your attention off yourself and focus that on the other person, wow. Talk about a total shift. As I said, takes all the stress off. And I guarantee you, you're going to be different than most other people at the networking event, whether it's a Chamber of Commerce or whether it's Rotary or, any event that you're at.
If you're a real estate investor and are wondering how to raise and leverage private money to make more profit on every deal, then you're in the right place. On Raising Private Money, we'll speak with new and seasoned investors to dissect their deals and extract the best tips and strategies to help you get the money, because the money comes first. Now here's your host, Jay Conner.
All right, well, we got from the live event 39 unique aha moments and 15 questions. We're not going to get to all of them, but I've gone through and highlighted a few that I think would bring value to everyone here. So, Crystal and Chaffee, I'll choose who I think would provide the most entertainment while answering these questions. No, I'm just kidding. So, ladies first. Crystal, I'll start with you. Asset-backed debt keeps the SEC away. So let's unpack that. First of all, what does it mean that all the deals that we do are asset-backed debt? What in the world does that phrase mean?
Because they are backed by real property. So they are collateralized by real property. So every single lender has collateralized interest in a specific property, a real property. So that's the asset back.
So the opposite of that means that we are not borrowing what kind of debt?
Unsecured.
Right. Mm-hmm. Now that's when the SEC does get involved. And they don't like that at all. So as Crystal said, we're not borrowing unsecured debt. The promissory note is backed by the real estate to the private lender that we are borrowing the money from. And, there's a misconception out there when it comes to asset-backed debt that you got to follow SEC rules. And is that true, Crystal?
No.
No,
because they don't have any legal interest in that type of transaction.
Right. So if any of you are thinking, well, I got to have 3 touches, I got to have 5 touches, I've got to have a long-term relationship with this potential private lender, then that doesn't come into play here when you've got asset-backed debt. I learned you can have more than one private lender funding a property. So, Chaffee, how in the world can you have more than one private lender that's funding the same project or the same property without having this notion of commingling funds or whatever?
So, it's just what we teach people and what we tell people is, you get to be the bank if you're a private lender. So we tell people just, you get to be a bank. And so the system that you've put together, Jay, emulates what a bank does. And when you look at your house, you can have a primary mortgage, and then you could have a secondary mortgage or a second mortgage or a line of credit, right? Or a HELOC. That's a different lender. And so just like banks can have multiple lenders on your property, you could have multiple private lenders on your property. The difference, just like a bank, is that they have different lien positions. And so it's still an asset-based asset-based deal where you are collateralizing the debt. Only it's a first position lien versus a second position lien, and sometimes maybe even a third or more, depending on the situation. And so we don't again fall under any SEC regulations because we're not pooling funds, right? When you pool funds, then you have to worry about the SEC. We don't do any of that. And so they don't, they're not looking at us because we have different lien positions for different lenders. And so you have multiple lenders on a property, just like a bank has multiple lenders on your mortgage on your house.
Now, when we have more than one private lender that's funding a property, and as Chavi just said, you got first position, you got second position, you have this thing, this phrase that we talk about a lot called total loan to value. Total loan to value. So, what do we mean by that, Crystal? Unpack total loan to value and give an example of what that might look like and what's the threshold that we recommend.
For sure. So when we talk about total loan to value, what we're really saying is we're looking at the after repaired value of the property as the value. So that's the after repaired value. And we can only collateralize or have debt in place up to 75% of loan to value. So now let's talk about for easy numbers, let's talk about a $200,000 house. So if you're buying a house and the after repaired value is $200,000, you can have no more than $150,000 collateralized by your private lenders. So what does that look like when we talk about total loan to value? Whatever liens are on this property. So if you have two private lenders, they can't be for any more than 150,000. So you could have 100,000, you could have 50,000. That's going to meet that 75% loan to value, but you cannot have more than that. So you could not add another lender. So you can't have 170,000 because then you would not meet that 75% loan to value. That's that cushion that we provide and the safety that we provide for our private lenders. And I think a lot of times where people start to get confused is when they start looking at these things, you kind of want to push here or there. They don't really look at it as the whole. And that's what you have to do. Add them all up, whatever the liens are. And it doesn't matter where those come from, but whatever those are on the property, they have to meet that 75%.
If you're going to bid on a foreclosure at the courthouse, ensure that you have a title search done first before bidding. So, Chaffee, why in the world would it matter whether or not you've got a title search done before you go bid at the courthouse?
Well, there's all these things in the world that can come up and bite you behind the behind. And when you're bidding at the courthouse, these things tend to pop up sometimes. When you're bidding on the courthouse, you're bidding actually on the bank that foreclosed on you. And so it could be a first mortgage or it could be a second mortgage. If it's for example, a second mortgage that's foreclosing on the property, you still have to pay off or you're still liable for that first mortgage. So you might think that, hey, I'm buying this property for $30,000, not realizing there's a $100,000 first mortgage on it that you still have to pay for if you win the auction. In addition to that, there could be mechanics liens, there could be tax liens, there could be all sorts of liens that are attached to the property that you're not aware of unless you do a title search. And so you gotta make sure that you are protecting yourself and looking out to make sure that there's nothing hidden and that what you're bidding for is what you're actually going to get the property for.
Yes, I actually know a real estate investor. He's very seasoned now. But before he was seasoned and before he got the education, he and his dad were all excited. They went to the courthouse and they bid on a property and they thought they had stolen that property. They won the bid for $30,000 on a house, $30,000. Well, about 90 days goes by, and guess what? Their entity owns the house. They bought it for $30,000, but now here comes a foreclosure notice on them in the mail. And of course, what had happened is they didn't get the title search done. They didn't know they had won the bid on a second position mortgage. And the first position mortgage lender was still in place, and they haven't been receiving any payments. So now here comes foreclosure letter. That foreclosure was a little over $100,000. So They lost that deal, but lesson learned, don't ever bid at the courthouse until you've had your title search done by, well, here in North Carolina, my real estate attorney does her own title searches. So very,
You
very
know what's
important lesson.
what's funny, Jay, is that that exact situation that you described with the person you know are the exact numbers that I pulled out of the air.
In other words, you heard the numbers coming.
Oh, that's right.
And an aha moment that Jeff submitted, he says, I can get paid to buy houses. Well, Jeff, since you submitted the aha moment, we should let you explain how in the world do you get paid to buy houses?
All right, Jay. Well, thank you very much. Whenever we go to the closing, then we have already built into the amount of money that's been sent to the closing attorney, not only the cost for the property, but the cost for the rehab and any additional monies that may be there. So in the Crystal's example, to where there's a $200,000 house and it needs $50,000 worth of rehab or so, and the house costs $100,000, then if there's any money left over from that, we get paid that additional funds. So we'll take home that $50,000. We will use it to be able to go ahead and renovate the home, get it ready for sale. And then, of course, after that, when it goes to market, we will also get paid whenever it's sold for the market value. So we get paid multiple times.
And in that example, you didn't have to bring any of your own money to the closing table, did you?
No, sir, not a bit. Yay, team.
I love it. Well, now, Jeff, another aha moment you had right behind that one was there are no construction draws as like when you are, if you were using institutional money, there's no construction draws when you're doing a renovation if you used private money. Well, how in the world can that be, Jeff? How is it that you don't have, when we say draws, we're talking about pulling down draws from the lender. You may have draws you're paying to your general contractor, of course, but as far as pulling down draw requests from your lender, why are there no draw requests to your lender when using private money?
Well, again, Jay, whenever we're at the closing and the HUD-1 is set up, and we're going to be getting back, once the house, the property is actually paid for, any remaining money is going to be sent to us as excess funds. And that's where we get that money. And then because hard money, they retain those construction costs in their account and only set them out and provide them to us to pay the contractors after it's been verified. And there's normally a cost associated with those draws as well. So when you're a private money investor and you're working with those folks, we have the best of everything where we can use those funds and not have to worry about going and having all of the certifications done and making sure that the hard money lender is satisfied and we have the money to be able to pay them without draws.
Thank you, Jeff. Perfect. When using private money or private lenders, your credit is not pulled or your credit is not checked, as with institutional money or hard money. Crystal, have you ever had any of your private lenders want to see your credit score?
Not any that have been my private lender. I had one person ever actually ask me for that in the beginning. She said it wasn't a warm connection. And so I just explained that's not how our program works.
Right.
But
so why do private lenders typically 99% of the time don't even bring into account your credit score before they lend you money on deals?
yeah, so it's really multifaceted. It's not just one thing. But if I were to just say, okay, well, we'll look at it as like what's the most important piece of that, and that's just because they have the collateral from the property. So they literally have a promissory note and a deed of trust or mortgage, depending on where they are. They're additionally insured on title insurance. They're the mortgage. They're the mortgagor on the property, the homeowner's insurance. So they have a lot of securities and you've already provided them with the information so they know that they have that 25% equity cushion. So that's the biggest piece, is they're not investing in with the same thought process, because they don't have to run your credit, because the property is what's securing them. That's where their protection is. So they know that they're safe because they've got that 25% equity cushion, and the fact that the property is something that they have collateral against. So that being said, the other pieces, we're working with our warm market predominantly. So now we've got trust. And so these people know us, they trust us, they know that we're going to take care of them. So they're not interacting with us as an institution would, where they're saying, well, I need to run your credit and I need to know all these things about you. These people are like, well, I know, like, and trust you. I love your program. It's amazing. And with all that being said, I'm going to be taken care of because of the way that you buy the property. And so, yeah, they're not going to be asking to look at my credit. And really, we're distinguishing the difference between, while we understand we are the operator, but it's a business, it's in our LLC. So they're not really looking at us as an individual coming to ask for credit from them. We're not crawling up to them and begging for it. We're just offering an opportunity that they can either, opt in or opt out of. And so, they're just taking advantage of this beautiful opportunity, and we're just there to provide it.
Institutional lenders require personal guarantees. Private lenders do not require personal guarantees. So two-part question, Chaffee, just to make sure everybody understands. What is a personal guarantee? And secondly, why don't private lenders require a personal guarantee?
So a personal guarantee is just somebody, me or whoever is the investor, or not the investor, saying, I will guarantee this money. I will guarantee to pay you back. And so what that does is that allows that institution to go after you and your assets for their money. And whether it's like many credit cards, for example, you get a credit card, you charge up $50,000, you don't pay that credit card. Well, most, if not all credit cards, unless they're business credit cards, if they're personal credit cards, have a personal guarantee, meaning that credit card company can take away your car, take away your house, or go after you for that $50,000 that you charge. So that's what a personal guarantee is. And the reason private lenders don't ask for personal guarantees is because they're collateralized. So they don't need to go after you. They're already protected by the property. And in the way that we do it with the loan to values and the equity in the property, many times, if for some reason something happens and you're not able to fulfill your side of things and they, foreclose or go after the property, they're going to make more money than if they would have just gotten paid by you because of all the equity in the property. And so they feel safe knowing that they are not only protected by the property for their money, they're more than protected by the property for their money. So there's even greater amount there for them because of the equity cushion there.
Always prepare for Murphy. So two-part question, Crystal. Who is Murphy and how do you prepare for Murphy?
Absolutely. So Murphy is the trouble that always shows up, the bad luck. And so invariably, there's going to be something. And so if you don't plan for the potential downside of things, the potential problems that could occur, then you are going to find yourself in a difficult situation. So you have to prepare for Murphy. You have to have some built-in protections to assure that you aren't going to be in a bad position in the end of it all. So the way we prepare for Murphy is multiple ways, to be completely honest. So Jay teaches buy right. And if you learn nothing else in your career, that is the one thing you should always remember, because if you don't buy right, then you don't have the same opportunities throughout this process, and you might not have a disposition option that makes sense. So buying right is critical. And so when we do this, we want to make sure that, one, we get a good contractor estimate. If we don't have it outlined, we don't have it nailed down, we don't even know what we're working with. So I often have people that are like, well, I think it's about this. I'm like, before you finalize, you better figure that out, because I had my contractor saved me one time because you looked at this house, it looked like it was in great condition, everything looked fine. And he's in and out of looking at things that most people aren't looking at. And he sees that there was structural damage from a fire at some point that was not disclosed. Without him having looked at that, I would have stepped into it and not had the right numbers. So that's really important. We have to have an appropriate.
I think you said it right, Crystal. You would have stepped into it.
Exactly. So that's huge. And that's definitely one way to help to protect yourself. Getting an inspection. Those are things where you're going to find those problems that you aren't going to see with the naked eye. Making sure that you have a proper after repaired value. And then ultimately, when we look at all of that, we still take off an additional 10,000 so that we can assure we are prepared for Murphy. And that's when we make our maximum allowable offer. We take 10,000 off of that, subtract it. That's our offer. That's what we're offering to the client. So that way, if there's a little bit that happens we weren't expecting, or a little bit a lot, then we're taken care of.
Found network to serve. So comment on that phrase, network to serve. How is that different from what most people do when it comes to networking? And how do you network to serve?
So, that's a writer downer. I mean, if there is a writer downer, that's one of them, right? If you're taking notes, write that down. Network to serve. And how's that different? And as many of you know, I have been to literally thousands of networking events. I've run my own networking events and have done so for almost 2 decades now. And I see people come into my networking events, and I see people at networking events all the time who are there for themselves. That's all they want, is they want to go to a networking event, meet people, pass out their business cards and say, send me referrals. It's all about me, give to me because I'm awesome. And in the meantime, I'm going, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you do. I don't know anything about you, whether I should trust you or not. And so why should I do anything for you? Right. And so, networking to serve is so much different than just going to network and meet people. Networking to serve is going to, as we say, lead with a servant's heart. And you go and you see how you can help people, and you meet people. And when you engage in a conversation with them, you get to know them to see what their needs are and see if you can help them and serve them. And so that's the whole purpose of networking to serve. And by doing that, it takes off this pressure of you of, oh, I got to meet these people so that I can raise all this money and I could ask for this or ask for that. All that goes away because your primary purpose for going is to go meet people and see how you can help them. And when you have that kind of philosophy, when you have that kind of mentality, and you go and you talk to people and you're just getting to know them, that's when true relationships are built. That's when you're helping other people. And in return, you'll find out that eventually all that comes back to you in waves. Like they start getting to know you. They start serving you because you serve them and giving you referrals and building those relationships. And so again, don't go to a networking event with the mindset of I need to meet people to raise money or I need to meet people to do deals. Go with the mindset of I need to meet people to get to know them and see how I can help them. And the rest will follow.
Crystal, why did we even talk about networking at all and in the detail that we did at the live event at the Private Money Conference? What's the connection there?
Yeah, so I'm the poster child for the wrong thought process to start and totally get it now. So I think most people have that thought, like Chaffee was talking about, that you just go to meet people or to get something. And we really understand that your business is built on relationship. That's it. Bottom line, you can look at it any way you want, but you come down to it, it's built on relationship. And where do we build those relationships? Through networking. That's where you meet more people. You can't just count on, just my immediate family or a few friends I've had here and there. You have to be able to serve as many people as possible. And the only way to do that is to get out and to network and spread the word and to share with people. So that the reason we teach it is because you told me Krista, you need to get out and network 10 years ago. And I was like, I don't want to. It seems like, and just recognizing the value of it. It's critical. And I would not have the business that I have today if I hadn't incorporated networking, if that wasn't an aspect of my life and that I continue today. I continue to build those relationships, continue to share with people, continue to give people people the opportunity to build a life that they want, because maybe we help them to sell a house, maybe we help them to become a private lender, maybe we help them to become a tenant buyer. But we're out there to serve those people and find ways that we can do that. And so we teach it at the conference because we want other people to have the skills and understanding so that they can do it well. We don't want a bunch of people out there shoving business cards at people. We want to teach them so that they really understand the value, and so that there's a community of people that are taking to heart exactly the same service mentality that you've taught all of us and your members.
Yes, and I have personally experienced it, Chaffee, Crystal, both of you, and anybody else that has taken heed to our coaching and our advice on networking. Of course, this allows you to scale your business, allows you to raise more private money. But when taking on the attitude of how can I serve the person that I'm meeting and getting to know, is by asking them questions about themselves and what they do, and digging deep, having curiosity of a child as to how you can uncover some ways to help them. And when you take on that attitude and that mindset, it takes all the pressure off. You're not asking anybody for anything. You're not trying to sell them. You're not sticking your business card in their nose, right? If somebody asks for my business card, of course I'm going to give it. But if I've got the mindset there of what can I do to serve people that I'm meeting, then, here's what happens. When you take your attention off yourself and focus that on the other person, wow. Talk about a total shift. As I said, takes all the stress off. And I guarantee you're going to be different than most other people at the networking event, whether it's a Chamber of Commerce or whether it's Rotary or, any event that you're at.
Hey Jay, let me add one thing, is that sometimes people get it in their head that they have nothing to give. They have no value. Like, what am I going to help this other person with, right? And I want everyone to realize here is that you always have something to give, and it's okay if you don't have something to give to a particular person at a particular time. Just keep in mind, take notes, mental notes or written notes of what their wants and needs are, and maybe you can help them down the road. So it's okay to meet somebody and not be able to help them right there and then. You're not a miracle worker, right? You don't have every single resource. And what you'll find is that the more you network, the more people you meet, the easier it becomes. And focus on this thing that we call becoming a connector, right? And when you can become a connector and connect people and say, you know what, I can't help you, only I know somebody that might be able to help you. Now people are going to come to you because they know that you're a connector. They'll start bringing other people to you as well to see if you can help. And so that all comes with time. So don't be afraid to go up to people and introduce yourself and think in the back of the head, I have nothing to offer. I can't do anything. Why am I here networking? When in reality, that is a skill that you pick up along the way to become a connector. And when you are known as a connector, that's when the magic happens.
There's lots of ways you can serve at networking events. Two that come to mind is if you are already in a group, let's say you're in the Rotary Club or whatever, Chamber, etc., and you're a member of that group. When you see someone come in that you don't recognize, go over there and welcome them, introduce yourself, be the first one to do that, and ask them, have you been here before? Is this your first, time visit? And then offer your experience and your knowledge about the group and the membership. And tell them, look, if you got any questions about how this works, I'm glad to help you because, I've been a member here for a while. That's one way. Another big way you can serve is to volunteer to help out at the event. Go to the organizers, the leaders of the group. I mean, like your local real estate investing association. Go to the leader of the RIA and tell them you'd like to serve and like to be a volunteer and what could you do to help out. And when you do that, you start now hanging around the leadership of that group because now you're volunteering. The cream rises to the top. He said, never rely on national foreclosure reporting services. So, two-part question, Crystal. Why not rely on national foreclosure reporting services that are, giving out information on people that are facing foreclosure? And if you don't rely on that, where do you get the information to serve those people that are facing foreclosure?
Yeah, so the reason you don't rely on national data is you just don't know when they've pulled that data. So you don't know how old it is. And then in addition to that, you don't know who else has access to it. Lots and lots of people will have access to something that you can get easily. So, just be cautious. You're probably getting it behind the timeline when someone else could get it. So how do you get it? Well, Jay, you and Carol Joy built the foreclosure system that tells people exactly how to find those foreclosures. And so whether it be going directly to the courthouse or using the courthouse system, you are getting those records when they're coming into their system. So as soon as they're available, you have access. Now you're in front of the line. Now you're getting that data real time, and you have an opportunity to work directly with the seller before every other investor in the universe has seen it through those national databases. So that's why you want to do that. That way you can see it. Your data is super accurate, and you know exactly how long they've been in the system, and you can get those letters out because you created the 8-letter sequence to work towards getting into communication with these people and help them out of their problem and into a position where you can purchase the home and help them avoid foreclosure.
Never accept money or a loan directly from your private lender. Always have the private lender wire the funds to your closing agent, title company, real estate attorney, whoever's doing the closing. Why is that important?
Well, it sounds really good to have somebody just cut you a check for 50 or 100,000, right? I mean, cut me a check for 100,000, right? And I know people, and I have know investors and private lenders that have done that exact thing. What sets us apart, what sets you apart, Jay, with the system you've put together is that we do everything above board, right? That act of you receiving money from them personally is how do you say it, is a red flag, shall we say. If you run across an investor asking for a check, that's a red flag that allows them to take your check, use your money. There's no protection whatsoever, however they want. And it's now, obviously we have a trust relationship. At the same time, they can just cash your check and go to Europe and you never see them again, right? So there's no protection for that private lender. And so the system that you've put together, Jay, everything is above board. Everything's professional. They cut a check to a title company or attorney escrow, who is a professional. And so, again, it's a system with many layers of protection put in place for that private lender and for you, so that if anything happens, if anything comes up, you say, hey, you didn't cut me a check. It went to my attorney. You now have a layer of protection, and they have a layer of protection as well. And so, again, it's just another piece in the whole, in the whole picture, in the whole pie that you put together to make sure that we have a system that works for everybody and protects them as well as protects you.
It says, does it matter if your private lenders are in a different state than the state you are investing in?
The very short answer is no. It doesn't matter. And actually, I really appreciate this because Chris brought this question to my attention, and we had a little bit more of a conversation about it to help him understand it. And I think one of the places where he was confused is thinking that you need to have an attorney in the state where the private lender is. And the reality is you don't. You just have to make sure that you have an attorney where you're investing that can close all of your transactions. But the private lender, you're the ones that are signing the guarantee. They don't have to. They're not signing the guarantee on this. And so they just have to have an ability to notarize any updates, like when we do modifications, they have to do that, and their payoffs, etc. But no, you don't. They can live anywhere, and they can invest as a private lender. So
yeah, and I think another reason that question comes up, there's some kind of confusion about being able to borrow and lend across state lines.
Right.
And I believe that question gets triggered because they're thinking about institutional money. Banks, mortgage companies, hard money lenders where there's a broker involved. Well, when that's involved, they are regulated by the commissioner of banks of that particular state. Well, as we all know, private money, private lending is just a one-on-one transaction with no originator, no broker involved in the transaction. It's not like there's a broker that's lending money out from someone else to the borrower. And so the commissioner of banks has got no regulation whatsoever for private lenders, for borrowers of private money. But speaking of the laws of the land, there's a new law that just went into place this past Monday, a week ago. And this is part of the Big Beautiful Bill Act. And the reason this law's in place is, to make sure there's no money laundering going on. So private money, any private money loan has got to be reported to the government as to who's the lender, who's the borrower, the principal, loan amount, etc. And so Julie Wickheiser, my attorney, she filled me in on what's going on. The good news is nothing changes on our end. We don't report it. It's your closing agent. It's your real estate attorney. It's your title company that's doing all that reporting. And if you're not laundering money, you don't have anything to worry about. So anyway, there was some talk of this new law at our live event a couple of weeks ago. And at that time, even Julie, my attorney, didn't even know how all this was going to shake out and who's got to do what and what exactly has got to be reported because, it's brand new. But anyway, so no worries, no problems. Your closing agent or your attorney will take care of all that reporting that needs to be taking place. Thank you, Chavi. Thank you, Crystal. Everybody have a great rest of your day, and we'll be seeing you soon. Bye for now.
Are you feeling inspired by the knowledge you gained in this episode? Then head over to jconner.com/moneyguide. That's jconner.com/moneyguide and download your free guide that shares 7 reasons why private money will skyrocket your real estate investing business right now. Again, that's jconner.com/moneyguide to get your free guide. We'll see you next time on Raising Private Money with